Well, Aurangzeb paved way for the Marathas, and I guess they were able to control for about 100+ years, and then they were also tired, and then the British managed to divide and conquer them, and then Britain established its sovereignty. Although I must say that they had a very funny way of ruling India. Kingdoms like Travancore, which were really big and they were militarily quite substantial, they gave them a lot of freedom. Travancore ran its own stuff to a large extent, whereas other kingdoms were not so successful. Of the same size, I mean, yeah.
The 18th century is basically the Maratha centuries. The British took India from the Marathas, not from the Mughals.
Yes.
But when we discuss, because we are discussing Javed Akhtar, basically, I think we drifted a little bit. Every Islamic cleric till today, and I'm saying this with full confidence and with full responsibility. Every Islamic cleric has it in his mind, and when I say Islamic cleric, it means the top Islamic cleric, that the Mughal Empire was lost to the British, and this Hindu India is a usurper, and they have to claim that rightful Mughal Empire back. And all strategies, you look at the pre-partition strategies, and you look at the way that you're behaving in post-partition days, that the same thing, what was called Qawmi Judagula, divided nation, the two-nation theory. They had the separate Qawm, the Milli Qawmiyat. They used to call it Milli Qawmiyat, that the nation of Islam, Milli Qawmiyat. That Milli Qawmiyat during the Shah Banu, it became what is called Milli Tashakhus. Tashakhus means special identity. And during the CAA agitation, the same thing was talked about as Mazhabi Pehchan. All the three things were actually the same phenomenon dressed up in different languages, different parlance. And the funny thing is that I have written a book which should be out shortly, and we deal with these subjects in fair detail. And I have quoted in that book a passage from the Constituent Assembly debates where the minority question was discussed. And Sardar Patel made a speech. And he made some very fine points. I'll just elucidate 2 or 3 of them.
Sure.
One thing that he said was that those very people, he was addressing basically a group of 4 from Madras who had been elected to the Constituent Assembly on Muslim League tickets, but that they did not go to Pakistan.
Pakistan, right.
So out of the 33 who were there from the Muslim quota, about 23 remained in India and about 10 left for Pakistan. And some, of course, curious cases were there, like Maulana Abul Kalam Azad was elected from NWFP. There were 2 seats from NWFP. One of them was taken by Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, and the other was, of course, Basha Khan himself. So what happened was that these people were again putting up a proposal for separate electorates.
But tell me something, Sanjay.
No, these 2-3 points I'll first elucidate.
Please, go ahead. Yeah.
If you give me a little bit of time. So 3 things I would recount. One, he said that you have successfully got India partition, but those very tactics, those very ideas which you used to partition India, you are still carrying on in this Constituent Assembly. You supported those policies which got Muslim League 100% Muslim seats in the Madras presidency area. And today you're doing the same thing again. But there is no third party now. Please remember. Point number one. The second thing he said that if a minority can get a country divided, what kind of minority is this? You say you are very well organized and you got the country divided, and yet you say that you are a minority. A minority which is so powerful cannot be called a minority. Point number two. And the third thing he said that the interests of a minority cannot be different from the interest of the country. And ultimately, the well-being and progress of a minority lies in the goodwill of the majority. So the majority's duty is to care for the minority. It is also the duty of the minority to earn the goodwill of the majority. So these three instances, which I have quoted in my book, I said, are very important.
Now, a couple of quick observations. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad was born in Makkah, Saudi Arabia.
Yes,
and
his name was
could you repeat that, please?
His given name at the time of birth was Firoz Bakht.
So how did he end up becoming a citizen of India?
No, his father was a citizen of India. He was born in Mecca.
Oh, I see. So he was like a consular official or something like that, maybe.
No, he was teaching there.
Okay. I see. Well, I guess borders, because everything was British ruled, borders didn't mean much in those days. You could be anywhere, and it was all Britain. I still, there are some interesting stories about how the Indian soldiers who were fighting for the British got stranded in Malaysia, and British told them, you have two options. You can sail back to your own country, to your own homeland at your own expense, or you can just stay here. These are all British properties. And many stayed there. And now today, you'll see a lot of Sardarjis who speak very fluent Tamil.
Okay. That's an interesting aside.
Yes. So please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Coming back to Khilji. Now, Alauddin Khilji comes after Bakhtiyar Khilji.
Mm-hmm.
You must remember that he was a general of the Delhi Sultanate, Bakhtiyar Khilji, and who had been sent on a mission to Bengal. And on the way, he went around destroying things, and somebody told him that there is something like this a place where there are a lot of Brahmins and there are a lot of priests, because Buddhists used to be, it was basically a Buddhist university, but because they also used to shave their heads, so these Arabs recognized them only as Brahmins. So on the way, they said that what is there? There are some books there. So they went and looked around, and they said, well, what are these books for? Somebody explained something to them. They did not understand. What is the book required for? Everything is there in the Quran. Whatever there is the book requires, there is only one book is required, Quran, which has everything. And whatever is not there in the Quran is not worth having it. So burn the library. Very similar to the burning of Alexandria library. So that was Bakhtiyar Khilji. Then the Bakhtiyar Khilji went to Bengal. Then he was under the employ of Alauddin Khilji's uncle Jalaluddin Khilji. And when Alauddin murdered his uncle and became king himself, by the time Bakhtiyar Khilji was gone, I'm not sure about the chronology, but I think Bakhtiyar Khilji was not there when Alauddin Khilji ascended the throne. I could be corrected on the chronology.
Okay.
But Bakhtiyar Khilji is before Alauddin Khilji. Nothing to do with Alauddin Khilji going and burning the library of Nalanda. It's there in that entire Islamic doctrine. You have to look at the doctrine. Then there is the thing about this Mongol business. Mongol business is complete nonsense. Mongols came and stayed in Delhi for 2 months, and this guy went and hid himself in Siri Fort. This Alauddin Khilji. What kind of resistance did he mount? And there were these actually the big Khanate had already dismantled. And there used to be this Chaktai Khanate. This Khan is a Mongol term, by the way. It's got nothing to do with Arabs or Persians. So these Mughals are basically, they have half Mongol blood. So all these Khans and everything, they came from Central Asia, from
Right.
Turkestan. And it was because the Khan died, the Chagtai Khan died, that these people went away. And they were also very clever. They came in when this guy was busy in battles in Ranthambore and Rajputana, other places. That time they came and they laid siege to Delhi. That is there. You can look at the history. You can try and glorify anything just because somebody belongs to a religion. And this funny thing about the Mughal enriching India, I mean, this is the most hilarious thing that I've ever heard. People are quoting Angus Madison. You don't even need to quote Angus Madison if you look at the very fact that all Islamic kingdoms in India owed allegiance to the Caliph. And they sent regular tributes to the Caliph. And what did they send? The most precious export at that time was slaves. They were going and raiding kingdoms and capturing slaves, capturing women as slaves. One of the reasons for this Jauhar, this
Right.
was this capturing of women and taking them as sex slaves to the markets of Persia and Baghdad,
Right.
even markets of Afghanistan. This was an indignity that was too much to bear for the proud Rajput women, so they prefer to end their life than be carted as sex slaves around. If somebody has read that S.L. Berappa's Avarana, then this sex slavery is described in this in all its goriest details, how it used to work. The prince and princess of Devgarh are taken prisoner and turned into one into slave and made in eunuch, and the other into a sex slave. And the horrifying story that unfolds after that is graphically captured by the great novelist S.L. Berappa. You could just refer to that and see for yourself what sex slavery and slavery meant in those times. And each of these people, at the very least, every Mughal, minimum of 25% of the total revenue of the state was there only for the upkeep of the royal palace. So when these Marxist historians, they lament the revenue crisis, they fail to enlighten us how that revenue crisis came about. When Aurangzeb used to move about in the Deccan, then a city like the Delhi city, he used to go around, that camp was as large as the city of Delhi. It ravaged the Deccan economy completely, and before that, Shah Jahan had ravaged this Khandesh area completely. And before that, what had Jahangir done? Somebody, I think, our friend Javed Akhtar was praising Shah Jahan too much. And also today in this tweet, I saw that they were great patrons of art and literature. What kind of art and literature? Can you name a single college, a single university that the Mughals created? All they created were harems. All they created were great tombs.
I think intellectually they were not in the same evolved state as. Yeah,
sorry. This is my statement. You can take it on record. And I say that as far as architectural beauty is concerned, the Taj Mahal does not compare with a single South Indian large temple. It's no match. Just because it is white marble doesn't mean that it's a great piece of architecture. William Bentinck found it so useless, he wanted to sell it off. And there was even an auction, but the auction, there was no response because the people who would have bought it on auction also found it equally useless. So that is how it did not get auctioned off. And it was later on, of course, our secular masters found it expedient and found it useful to make it some kind of a symbol of the country.
Yeah. So we were talking about. I was trying to make the point that intellectually they were not quite as evolved as perhaps India was, because India had this rich history of 5,000 plus years where Vedas had come and, Panini's grammar. The fact that all this survived itself is amazing because there were so many waves of, invasions. And another interesting thing I wanted to ask, and I hope you bring this in your book, the book that you're titling as Nullifying Article 370 and Enacting CAA. In this book, I hope you clarify. This is something that I heard. I don't have any proof for this. What I heard was up until the formation of Muslim League, 1905, many of the Muslims who lived in what was India at that time, all the way from Attak to Katak, they used to do Pitru Karya, just like we do, or at least Hindus are supposed to do it. And it's somehow this formation of Muslim leagues is a point where they said that, oh, no, we are different, we are special. I don't know whether you have mentioned this or you've done some research on this. What are your thoughts on that?
I had written a separate article on this because it is not related really to the formation of Muslim League. It is related to the insecurity of the Muslim clerics. Because what had happened in around 1935, that there were some Muslim women whose husbands had disappeared or something had happened and they were not being released. And they were not able to obtain a divorce, and they were otherwise also not being released. So what they did was that they converted to Christianity.
I see.
And in the Shariat, the apostasy is immediate if you change your religion, and any marriage with an apostate is also automatically dissolved. So what happened was that these ladies, they were high-class ladies, and they were very intelligent also, and that's why they chose to convert to Christianity, because they know that they knew that these people
the British would save them at least. Yeah, right.
Converted to Christianity. So they converted to Christianity, got their release, but that created a lot of consternation among the Muslim clergy. After 1935, what happened was that this election was happening. There were a lot of politics within politics. So they managed to convince the British to enact two legislations. And it is these two legislations which completely finished off the plural character of the Muslim social behavior. You are absolutely right. In northwest frontier provinces, they all used to follow tribal customs. In Kerala, they used to follow matrilineal customs, and a lot of them, you must have heard about this Mewat in the course of this Tablighi Jamaat discussions. They used to marry according to the Hindu rites, and this was a general loose practice almost everywhere. I wrote a piece on this. You can link it in this particular talk. And this piece was on Uniform Civil Code. It was titled that Uniform Civil Code is not one civil code. And there I quoted a discussion on Uniform Civil Code from the Constituent Assembly, where Dr. Ambedkar very clearly mentioned, look, it was in 1937 that the Maulanas got together and they brought this application of Shariat Act. And they forced all the Muslims to the yoke of Sharia. Before that, there was no compulsion on the Muslims to follow the Sharia. It is only in 1937 Sharia Act that this happened. And then in 1939, they brought in a special act called the Dissolution of Muslim Women's Marriage Act. And in that, they did something that is totally contrary to Sharia. So this is what I say, that these people are, the clerics, they are great opportunistic people. That in this Muslim Women's Marriage Dissolution Act, what they did was that they did something which is totally alien to Sharia. And they said that even if somebody converts, even if a woman converts, even then she will have to obtain a decree from the court of a Qazi. Can you imagine the deception that is practiced? So what you say is true, but this happened in 1937, not in the formation of Muslim.
See, one of the sociological things that are trotted out is that it's critical that the women of any society be educated, because they are the ones who bring up their children. What is the literacy rate amongst women in India, Muslim women in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh? Do you have some ideas that you can, numbers that you can share with the people, with our audience?
I don't have the numbers offhand, but it's generally known that it's a lot less among the Muslim women, and in some backward areas like Mewat and all, it's as low as 2%. Of course, I think they can be readily accessed in a census report. I don't have it right now.
Okay. Because there is some studies that I remember reading that said that if the woman's literacy rate is higher, then a couple of things happen. One is that the children have a proper upbringing. They also get educated. The other thing is that the number of children it gets a little bit more under control. Like, you know, it's not 6 or 7, because the mother knows that, you know, there's only so much money coming into the house. So economical viability starts stepping in, can reason and say that, okay, this is the family size that our income can afford. And thereby it brings in some stability. What it also means is that whatever is the resources they have, it also, you know, paves way for those children to be brought up. So this is a mechanism that builds upon itself. And I was just curious, because I've also heard some really horror stories about educated women not having much of a future in Pakistan. Because Pakistan is a failed state. We all know that today. But what about those who are unlucky enough to have gotten a degree? There's not much of a future. I don't know how true that is. Maybe you can cast some light on that.
See, as far as the census reports go, if I remember rightly, again, because I didn't look at the census report before coming for this talk. My general impression is that in the census, in the last decadal census between 2001 and 2011, there was a massive drop in the birth rate, in the TFR, total fertilization rate of the Muslim women, which was a little bit more than the drop among other communities. So
this is in Pakistan.
Education is not playing a role. It is definitely playing a role, and it is not just limited to education. Education and health, you know, the kind of security that healthcare brings, that also is a disincentive to produce more children. And as far as education among ladies is concerned, I think the entire CAA was led by highly educated ladies. Rana,
no, I was too different. I'm not talking about India. In India, there is a...
Everybody was a highly educated woman. Sabah Naqvi.
You see, there was an ecosystem that thrived on feeding the population untruths. And that ecosystem feels itself endangered now because the gravy trains have stopped. First off, the Middle East has problems of its own. They don't have money to feed their own people. 15,000 princes does, you know, raise the bill of on the exchequer quite a bit for Saudi Arabia. And now they are just off the back of the paper calculations. Saudi Arabia needs to get $8 to $10 per barrel just to recover the cost of extraction. and crude is in that range, and they needed $75 per barrel in order to take all these subsidies that they have given to their own people as well as to the other countries. So I think things are a long way away from there. So now people have to actually work for it, and that imposes a lot of challenges. You're not used to it. Your life is almost productive life. Most of the time you're just getting these things just for making some statements in TV and writing some nonsense on media, which the West was only too happy to take. Now all those things are in question, and you see the uproar.
The Mughal Empire was the richest empire in the Islamic world. I think that's why some of the Islamists these days, they confuse this as a Mughal Empire having been the richest contribution to India. Whereas the fact is, if you look at Addison, the fact is that the Mughals came in when the India's GDP share in the world economy was about 25%. And when they left, if you take 1857 as the end point, then it was about 14%. And even if you take 1707, which is the death of Aurangzeb, even by that time it was about 18%. And of course, by the time the British left, it was 4.2%. That's a different matter. But this particular argument which Javed Akhtar made, that the Mughals contributed art and literature and they made India richer, is something that doesn't wash. And some of us, me included, and a lot of people, other people on Twitter, we have all together built up and contributed a purse of nearly 3 crores, which anybody can claim if he can scientifically prove that the Mughals made India richer. So here it is. It's there for the taking. You can also claim it if you can prove that the Mughals made India richer.
Oh well, it's kind of looking for truth that's not there. Now let's wrap up this discussion, if you don't mind. These kinds of people, I mean, you're going to have these kind of narratives again and again, over and over. The only effective way is to take it and then dissect it point by point and show people that this is where the problem is. And it's unfortunate that people who take or try to grab the mantle of being the person who's speaking for Muslims, they themselves are not that grounded in what they know and what they don't know. And that's what makes it so frustrating, that there isn't anyone who is there are one or two, but they are still not willing to come out and do the outreach that is required to tell the Muslims, look, the 1.1% of us are actually bringing the entire community a bad name, and we need to repair that, and we need to, what you said, earn the trust of the majority. That is very, very important. It's a two-way street. It's not a one-way street.
You're right. What I would also suggest to everybody, in fact, I tell a lot of people that why don't you read the Islamic literature and read the books that govern the social conduct of Muslims. You see, everything today, we have these two major sets, the Devbandis and Barelvis. Even Tabligis are an offshoot of Devbandis. Devbandis are about 20% of Sunnis, and Barelvis are basically confederation of majority of Sufi silsilas. They're about 80%. But the stream, the source of all of these people, the source is Aurangzeb. Nothing has changed. The Fatwa-e-Alamgiri, the people who composed Fatwa-e-Alamgiri, their descendants, their one stream went and became Devbandi, another stream went and became Barelvi. And a lot of their differences are just nominal. The status of the Prophet is the difference. One says Prophet is divine, the other says the Prophet is not divine. that he is a special human being. He is not divine. And Barelvis, Sufis, they say no, the Prophet is Nurullah and he is divine. Otherwise, subordination of tariqat to shariat, the way shariat is interpreted, the way jihad is defined, the way the status of kafir is defined, the way Darul Harb and Darul Islam are defined, all very same. I have brought it out in detail in my book. So all of us, if we really want to understand this, then we have to go through this Islamic literature.
And very, very interesting prospect there of reading your book. We look forward to it, and we wish you all the best, Sanjay ji. And thank you so much for taking your valuable time out to explain to our viewers, these truths and half-truths that being peddled. And it's very, very unfortunate. We all like Javed Akhtar's dialogues and lyrics. Who can forget Sagar jaisi aankhon wali, ye to bata tera naam hai kya. So, but in this realm, in this avatar, I think he's coming up quite short. Thank you very much.
कभी सलीम साहब से पूछ लीजिए उनके बारे में.
Well, we'll have a session on that one where you can explain what your recollections are of Salim about Javed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi everyone. In the current scenario with the spread of COVID-19, the printed books are on the verge of becoming outdated, and e-books are becoming the mainstream way of reading. You can now read our e-book, Who Painted My Money White, comfortably on the Kindle app on your phone or a tab. So now, I'm going to show you how to download Kindle on your phone. Firstly, open Play Store or App Store depending upon your phone. We are following Play Store process, though the process is similar for both Android and iOS. In the search bar, type Amazon Kindle. Tap the first result to open the application page and press Install. Once installed, press Open to start the application. Use your credentials to log in. If you were already logged into an Amazon account, then you will directly reach the welcome page for the app. Tap on Start Reading and then tap on Get Started. Now in the search bar, type the book name or the author name and it will show you the relevant results. Tap on the book and then tap on Read for free. iPhone users can buy the book at a discounted price of just Rs 199. You get a 30 days trial for the app on Android. Tap on the button. On the next screen, press Continue to reach the payment page. After entering your payment details, click on Place Your Order. Once the process is complete, it will show a message saying, "We are setting up your membership." Pressing the cross on the top right corner of the screen will take you back to the book results page. Tap on the book and then tap on Read for free. It will open a new page. Here you can follow the author and then tap on Read Now. It will now open the ebook and you can happily enjoy reading it.